Cassandra Pentagast, along with seven other names, or is it eight or nine? I've lost count. She is a character that over time did grow on me. I still dislike the art direction that BioWare took with her. I dislike the sharp angular features, the extremely short hair, the multitude of scars. Certainly, if you're going to romance her, I find that quite off putting. But despite that aspect of things, I think she is overall a pretty well done character. Uh, what you see on the surface, of course, is later revealed to be, well, to a certain extent, just surface as well as some other things. But on the surface, she does seem brusque and off putting, and as she herself admits, self righteous. And then as you get to know her, even within the context of a quote unquote friendship, you realize that there's a lot more to her than just I'm the self righteous, short haired, scarred agent of the Inquisition, right hand of the divine that's going to smite the evildoers. You see that there is a softer side to her, particularly if you pursue a romance with her that involves a lot of wooing and traditional flowers and chocolate bullshit. And, that's certainly something, whilst it might not be praiseworthy, is interesting in the sense that it offers another dimension to the character. She also shows a surprising amount of compassion considering her role as a seeker. And you get to see a lot of the conflicted interests that are going on. On the one hand, abuses and Templar power with respect to mages, but also abuses of magical power. And of course, she's put in between and the middle of it, and she doesn't really have a solution. And she is, in part, or rather, in some measure, a large part of the Mage Templar dilemma, right? We find out, obviously a spoiler, we find out that the Rite of Tranquility was in fact developed by the Seekers and is practiced by the Seekers, that her rite of vigil, her meditation, was in fact nothing more than her becoming tranquil and then being re-empowered by a spirit of faith that's summoned. Presumably, the summoning occurs with magic. How else? And so, this is news to us. Once again, another very interesting piece of lore that is revealed in the game. But this also demonstrates to us that the Rite of Tranquility can be reversed to some degree, although apparently for mages, she mentions it has potentially disastrous consequences. A mages can't deal with the return to the normal. Presumably for non-mages it's easier. We don't know. But she's part of that, and then she finds out later on that she's part of it, and you can see the conflict of interest she has, although she feels quite convinced, if you have conversations with her about it, that she needs to move forward. She needs to reveal the truth to the world. She can't just stay a seeker hiding this knowledge. And she needs to tell mages even the truth about the Rite of Tranquility, assuming it can be found out to be completely irreversible, along with getting rid of any mentally debilitating conditions that might accompany the removal of the Rite of Tranquility. So we see that Cassandra is a lot more than fire and brimstone and let's smite the evildoers. She does have a lot of compassion. I really liked her as a character, at least. I'm not saying I agree with her, but as a character, her speech about I want to right wrongs but not avenge them. I want, paraphrasing here, well, that's the only line I can remember off the top of my head. But you know that speech, those of you who have played. And she also shows an uncanny degree of humility. She says, well, and I have no idea if wanting these things, that is, right wrongs but not avenge them, etc., makes them right. And, you have a lot of options as a player as how to address them and how to proceed. But she's interesting in that regard. I think of the three candidates for the divine, she probably has the most humility. She's the one that has the most doubt. And Vivienne is utterly convinced of her direction. And I think depending on what direction you take with Liliana, actually independent of that if she's a divine candidate, she's utterly convinced of hers too. And Cassandra, of course, represents a middle ground, but she doesn't represent a middle ground in my view just because she represents a political middle ground. I think a lot of her middle ground is her own personal doubt and her own self-reflection. It's not to say we can only guess as to whether or not Vivienne self-reflects and has doubt, but I mean, you hear her. She says, the malcontents must be utterly crushed. They must be eliminated. She believes that's the path towards prosperity and safety for everyone. Liliana thinks completely revamping the Chantry, allowing all races and all genders, presumably, access, that's the way to go. And Cassandra says, well, maybe that's too much of a rush. I mean, it's really her doubt and hesitation that make her the middle ground candidate of divines, which makes it interesting. I think if I were actually living in Thetis, she'd probably be the route that I choose, if only because hers seems to be the one that would least lead to renewed chaos, which is very much a potential with Vivienne's route, as well as a lot of people scratching their heads and a lot of dissatisfaction with a radical change, or the radical changes that Liliana would enact as Divine Justinia. So Cassandra really turned out to be a pretty good character overall, in my view. As I said, I mean, I don't find her physically appealing. That's irrelevant as a character, as character development is concerned. But she certainly, if you take a friendship path, she certainly is more appealing than she initially seems. Although she certainly comes down hard if you offer an alliance with the Magus or conscript the Templars. I mean, that's obvious, it's to be expected. And you can upset her, as per my video making Cassandra drunk. But overall, I was impressed with the revelations that you see. She's a good character, and she offers some more nuance, a lot more nuance than Vivienne. Vivienne's a good character too, but she's just one thing, right? Uh, Cassandra is not just one thing. She seems to be one thing in the beginning, and turns out to be a significantly more than just one thing. And her own self doubt is reassuring as you take the journey. As Inquisitor, you see that she has doubt. She even turns to you as an example, and you can take some funny routes there. As my female dwarven rogue says, I just make it up as I go along, and she kind of laughs at that. And she has a sense of humor as well. I mean, the dwarven interaction with her was pretty funny. So I think Bioware actually did a pretty good job as a lone instance, at least, on Cassandra. She's multifaceted. She does not so much. She doesn't have character. It's not personal character growth so much as development in the eyes of the player. You see her moving, transforming from one aspect to another, and that adds nuance and appreciation. I mean, you can really appreciate the Cassandra character at the end of the day, at the end of the mission, the final party room celebrations, and you think, yeah, she's actually not too bad. And when you first started, you think, man, what a fucking cunt. I dislike her. And so that, of course, that's a positive development, at least in the eyes of the Inquisitor. You move from being prisoner to being fast friends, or in some cases lovers with her. And and she's open-minded. I mean, if you romance her, you completely have the option of not believing in the Maker, and that's all cool with her. Although she retains her faith, it's odd in a sense, but can be appreciated, I imagine, as the Inquisitor if you were in fact really the Inquisitor. Anyway, Cassandra Pentagast and 7 other names. A well done character overall, and one that is also plot essential. You cannot have Cassandra. You cannot have the game rather without Cassandra Pentagast. She's the one that reinvokes the Inquisition, brings it back into being. She's the one that, yeah, that brings it all about. She's the one that makes you prisoner and then later anoints you Inquisitor officially. She tells you. She's plot essential, another plus point in the character. So that's my take on Cassandra Pentagast. I hope this makes for some commentary. And let me know. Let me know in the comment section. And as always, thanks for watching. This is possibly the last video before the New Year's. I don't normally celebrate New Year's of any. I hate firecrackers and the noise. But nonetheless, I wish you a pleasant passing into the new year. I hope the new year is fun and intellectually profitable to you all. And as always, thanks for watching and take care. Bye bye.